Good morning, friends. Good morning. Good to be with you this morning, and good to have you with me today. Wonderful, wonderful. Hi, I'm Brian. I'm the pastor and chief knucklehead here at Christ United Methodist Church in Waynesboro. If you're not familiar with where that is, we are on the southern border of Pennsylvania, just just north of the Maryland border, just a couple miles, depending on which direction you go. But good to be here, and good to be here on on Facebook and YouTube and our website, or however it is you are joining us this morning. Ooh, itchy nose. Um, I see that some folks are already logging in, which is great. I like to try to give people a minute or two, so I usually blather on until it's time. But I see you've got a few of you already joining in, and I also see that a couple of you have already said good morning. So it's good to see you. I appreciate you doing that. It helps me know exactly who it is that's there, because otherwise they don't usually tell me. They don't usually tell. Facebook just gives me a number. So good morning, Marcia, and good morning, Cheryl, and hello, Pat. Good to see you. And maybe Bill. I don't know if Bill's joining you this morning or not. Oh, just got a message from. Okay. Uh, Cindy will not be joining us this morning. She's going to be catching the recording later. And that's one of those things. So thankful for technology. I'm probably like many people. I complain about technology and all this stuff until we need it, and it truly has been a blessing during this past year, as we've had to shift and change how we do things, which is always great, really. We don't like that word change. We don't like that idea of having to change something. We want things comfortable. We like to be in our comfort zone, but of course, Jesus challenges us to move out of our comfort zone and out into the deep water, as he told his wannabe disciples before they actually even became his followers, told them to go out into the deep water. So there is that challenge there for us. Sometimes we don't like that, but because of this technology that we've been able to adapt and do things, and you can watch me live as some of you are this morning, and you can also watch a recording later, which I amen to that. Oh, all right, thank you, Pat. Good morning. Good raining morning to you, Susan. It is. It's a good morning. We can use some rain. It's been semi-dry for about a week, I guess. Can always use the rain as long as you don't get too much at one time. That's always the double-edged sword, so to speak. I don't think Ronnie will be joining us this morning. He has been feeling a little under the weather, so he couldn't get up early enough yesterday to watch us. He tuned in later and watched the recording, and looks like he's probably going to be doing the same thing. He's probably still sleeping. Good morning, Marilyn. So we've got a bunch of you checking in, which is wonderful. Love it, love it, love it. All right. So today is Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, March 24th. So we've got today and we've got tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be live at 9 o'clock, taking that break, of course, for Friday and Saturday for my Sabbath and my Sue Day. And then Sunday we'll be back, of course, with worship as well as this. And I'm pointing that way because I'm sitting in my office and the sanctuary is that way. Um, and worship will be, of course, at 8:15 in person, 10:45 in person, and live stream. So you've got your options to join us for worship. Um, I'll put this video. I'll put our Bible study in between those two, so it will be 9:15 ish when I go live with that recording. Hello, Colleen. Good to see you this morning as well. Great to have everybody. Um, by the way, in case you didn't hear, we did mention yesterday during our Bible video yesterday morning. A couple folks asked for prayers for Galen and Janet, and in case you didn't hear, prayers were answered. That's probably the simplest and best way to say it. Prayers were answered. Um, couple hour surgery, and the doctor came out and talked to Janet, and really sounds like everything went well, because she said prayers were answered. And so she thanks you for your prayers, and I would ask that we continue our prayers for them as Galen recovers from that. But things are looking good for both of them. So wonderful. All right. So we're going to get to chapter 36. Now, we did start chapter 36 yesterday. We read those first 7 verses because they put the end of the chapter in the wrong spot, period. So we're going to read the rest of chapter 36 today. And as I at least hinted at yesterday, yesterday was collecting the stuff, which Moses telling people, this is what we have to do. Gave the list of all the stuff. This is all the stuff we need. Bam, 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 bam. This is what we're going to be building. Bam, 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 bam. These are the guys that are in charge. Bam, 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 bam. Or only 2. Bam, bam. And we got all that done. And the people gave too much stuff. They were willing to make offerings towards the whole thing, and they were very generous in what they gave. Gave out of that willing heart, and the idea of the giver, it's better to give than to receive. They had been receivers, and now they're givers, and they took advantage of that opportunity and gave. So what do you think happens next? Yes, the actual construction. So the next several chapters, 36, 37, 38, 39, are about the construction of the tabernacle and the courtyard, and about making the finery, the robe and all the accoutrements for the high priest and for his assistants, for Aaron and his sons, let us say. Moses is particularly absent through most of the rest of this. He comes in chapter 40, I believe, but between now and then, he's absent. Why? He's not a builder. Moses knows what he can do, and he is entrusting the job to the rest, to Bezalel. I always get his name. Ooh, I got it right. Bezalel and Oholiab. He's entrusting the work to them. They're the ones that God put in charge. So Moses is being that obedient servant. And that's an important word for these couple chapters, few chapters. It really is about obedience. Oh, good morning, Joe. Good to have you with us this morning as well. It truly is about obedience. Moses is being obedient by stepping aside and letting the other 2 take charge. And the Israelites, the entire community, is being obedient by building this tabernacle and courtyard and all of the accoutrements and stuff that go with it. So this really is about obedience. The disobedience we saw a couple chapters ago, 32. Now we're going to see obedience, and that's what this is kind of all about in here, from here on in. There's really not a whole lot to talk about in these next several chapters, because I think I said everything that needed to be said about most of this stuff a few chapters ago, when God was giving the plans to Moses and planting it in his head. We talked about a lot of the things, but so I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. There are some. When you have the chance, you can go back and reread the instructions from God and compare it to these few chapters. Overall, they're almost identical. Okay, obviously the instructions from God tell the why. It talks about the purpose of each of the items, what they're going to be used for. These few chapters don't. That makes sense, though, because this is just telling the story of the construction. I'm going to hold off on something that I'm going to say about that. This is really dealing with the story of the construction. So what the items are for isn't important now. It was important a few chapters ago when God first talked about it, but not now. Other than that, almost everything is the same. There's a couple things that are skipped, we might say, and there's one or two things that are sort of added in. But overall, things are identical. And the order is mostly the same. Mostly the same. They change up the order once or twice. But again, when you're thinking about it being a story of construction, it makes sense that the order of how things were made changed. Okay, so chapter 36, beginning with verse 8, because this is where verse 1 should be. The skilled craftsman made 10 curtains of finely woven linen for the tabernacle. Then Bezalel decorated the curtains with blue, purple, and scarlet thread and with skillfully embroidered cherubim. All 10 curtains were exactly the same size, 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. 5 of these curtains were joined together to make one long curtain, and the other 5 were joined to make a second long curtain. He made 50 loops of blue yarn and put them along the edge of the last curtain in each set. The 50 loops along the edge of one curtain matched the 50 loops along the edge of the other curtain. Then he made 50 gold clasps and fastened the long curtains together with the clasps. In this way, the tabernacle was made of one continuous piece. Pause, just one brief pause and interjection. Just as a reminder, why did they need to use these clasps to hold all 10 curtains together? Why did they build it in 2 sets of 5 when they were just going to hook them together and make one piece? For mobility. The size of these curtains would have been extremely heavy to try to do all 10 if they were all hooked together. So you got 5 and 5. That's why. Remember that. You remember that, I'm sure. Continuing. He made 11 curtains of goat hair cloth to serve as a tent covering for the tabernacle. These 11 curtains were all exactly the same size, 45 feet long and 6 feet wide. Bezalel joined 5 of these curtains together to make one long curtain, and the other 6 were joined to make a second long curtain. He made 50 loops for the edge of each large curtain. He also made 50 bronze clasps to fasten the long curtains together. In this way, the tent covering was made of one continuous piece. He completed the tent covering with a layer of tanned ram skins and a layer of fine goat skin leather. Pause. Because your translation might say something different than fine goat skin leather. I believe the NRSV just translates it as fine leather. The NIV translates it as the skin of sea cows, which I think it puts a footnote that it's a dugong or something like that. Which, if you look up, looks similar to a manatee, but they're not exactly the same family. The reason for the differences on that is the Hebrew is an obscure word and it's unclear. So they're really not 100% sure what it was. So fine goatskin leather, fine skin of a sea cow, whatever, take your pick. But before people start saying, hey, mine doesn't say leather or goats, mine doesn't say goats. All right, continuing. For the framework of the tabernacle, Bezalel constructed frames of acacia wood. Each frame was 15 feet high and 27 inches wide, with 2 pegs under each frame. All the frames were identical. He made 20 of these frames to support the curtains on the south side of the tabernacle. He also made 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame, with the pegs fitting securely into the bases. For the north side of the tabernacle, he made another 20 frames with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. He made 6 frames for the rear, the west side of the tabernacle, along with 2 additional frames to reinforce the rear corners. of the tabernacle. These corner frames were matched at the bottom and firmly attached at the top with a single ring, forming a single corner unit. Both of these corner units were made the same way. So there were 8 frames at the rear of the temple, set in 16 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Then he made crossbars of acacia wood to link the frames, 5 crossbars for the north side of the temple and 5 for the south side. He also made 5 crossbars for the rear of the tabernacle, which faced west. He made the middle crossbar to attach halfway up the frames. It ran all the way from one end of the tabernacle to the other. He overlaid the frames with gold and made gold rings to hold the crossbars. Then he overlaid the crossbars with gold as well. For the inside of the tabernacle, Bezalel made a special curtain of finely woven linen. He decorated it with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and with skillfully embroidered cherubim. For the curtain, he made 4 posts of acacia wood and 4 gold hooks. He overlaid the posts with gold and set them in 4 silver bases. Then he made another curtain for the entrance to the sacred tent. He made it of finely woven linen, embroidered it with exquisite designs using blue, purple, and scarlet thread. This curtain was hung on gold hooks attached to 5 posts. The posts with their decorated tops and hooks were overlaid with gold, and the 5 bases were cast from bronze. Pause. Oh, end of chapter. End of chapter. So here I got a picture. Maybe I should have said something before I popped that up there. So you could have kind of looked, and you can see the cross pieces. You can see all the framework that had to be put together. This does have most of the other accoutrements, interior stuff finished, and even shows Aaron in his fine regalia there. But you can kind of see what they're talking about with the covering and the extra covering over top of the covering and over top of everything. And the finely woven, this would be the inner one that separates the holy place from the most holy place, etc., etc. So the end of that chapter. What was I going to say that I said I'm going to hold off on for a couple minutes? The importance is you're reading this story. I mean, we can kind of get lulled in to, it's a wonderful story, putting everything together. So nice. What we miss when we read this in such a way, or think about this story in such a way, we miss the hard work. We miss the hard work. We miss the fact that the tabernacle was constructed with human hands. It was hard work. Okay, people brought all the stuff to Bezalel and Aholiab and the other craftsmen. They brought all the gold. They brought all the jewelry. They brought all the stuff. But all that gold, all that jewelry needed to be melted down and framed and poured into molds and shaped, and all the bronze, the same thing, and all the silver, same thing. They brought all the fabric, they brought all the yarn, all the fibers, but they had to be woven together. They had to be stitched, and we're talking, heavy pieces of fabric. So consider rereading, or consider listening to these passages. Find it, you can usually find them online that will read them to you, and close your eyes and just imagine all the work. Imagine the acacia wood being, the trees being cut down, the wood being shaped, the wood being planed and squared off and measured, and you measure first, right? Measure first, cut last, and all that kind of stuff. Everything taking place. It was hard work. It was hard work. I mean, you read the chapter in just a matter of a few minutes, but we're talking days and days and days of hard work. It's hard work to construct a holy place. It's hard work to construct the tabernacle. It's hard work to construct a sanctuary, a place worthy of God and a place where you can meet with God. Okay? And it was human labor. And yes, again, obedience, mostly about obedience. Well, friends, like I said, there's really not a whole lot to say about these chapters. Most of the stuff we've already talked about. So we've just got a few more chapters. I have a couple ideas of where we're going to be going next. I have to look at the calendar and look at the Bible, the books of the Bible that I'm thinking about, and count out days and see what's going to work best. Might have an announcement for you tomorrow where we're going to be going next, or it might not be till Monday. I mean, excuse me, Sunday or Monday, when I make the final commitment to what book of the Bible we'll be looking at next. Anyway, friends, thank you for joining me. I pray this has been beneficial for you, that God has spoken to you through what you have read or what you have heard this morning. And as always, keep your eyes and ears, physical and spiritual, open to what God is doing in your life, in the life of this world in which we live, because we do have, serve, love, praise, worship a living, caring God. When you see it, say, thanks, God, and then tell somebody about it. Be blessed, my friends.